Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome back Duane Emeny, CEO of that great family-owned company, Air Chathams. Duane, good evening and welcome to you.
Very good evening, John.
I like that family-owned. I presume that is correct. Certainly, it's got a wonderful family feel about it. Air Chathams.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% family-owned. Craig and Marion Emeny are the two owners and directors. So it's quite unique for an airline these days.
It must be. I mean, worldwide it must be. Certainly for the kind of operation that seems to be expanding. And of course, we've had this hiccup. We've had the level 3 in Auckland and emerging into something called 2.5. We hear that's going to last for another couple of weeks at least. And just how has it been this first week of sort of partial escape for the Aucklanders heading down to the gorgeous Kapiti coast?
Yeah, good question. Slow for the first couple of days, as you'd expect. People, there was a level of anxiety around travel, and of course all the restrictions too. Having to, with compulsory masks and social distancing and things like that. It does put people off travel, and I think probably a little bit of anxiety too for people to get back into Auckland. Of course, you've been living in this external bubble from Auckland, I suppose. Where there is obviously that cluster of COVID and people are quite rightly concerned about that. So, but what we have seen and what we hoped we would see is a much faster bounce back. And I mean, it really is only the first week, but we're already starting to see, in terms of our daily sales, pick up to similar levels to when we were going into that, when Auckland went back into level 3. So that gives us a lot of confidence and encouragement, and that it will come back faster, and then we can get back to where we were before that restriction, and then obviously continue to build from there.
Indeed, great stuff. And do you think the extra fortnight or so that they're talking about on level 2.5 in Auckland, do you think that is going to be more of a constraint, or can you see a gradual uplift from here?
Oh, absolutely, it's going to be a constraint. I mean, we've said from the start, along with the other airline representatives, that social distancing is a nonsense, really. On the aircraft that we operate, the size of the aircraft, and even on the larger A320s and things that are flying between the main trunk routes, you really can't be keeping those social distances when you're getting on and off the aircraft, no matter how hard you try. So I think with really thorough cleaning practices and masks, you're doing the very best you can to eliminate the spread if it did happen to be on an aircraft. And all that social distancing is doing is making it much harder for the airlines to be commercially viable over this time, and the fears that the customers are getting are a lot higher than they'd expect. So, it's a double whammy really when you're trying to rebuild the economy after another lockdown.
Absolutely. What's the maximum you can seat in aircraft flying from Auckland to Kapiti under the current constraints?
Well, I mean, we have 11 rows, and you can put 2 per row, so you're 22 seats maximum. However, if you are travelling on the same PNR and are known to each other, you can still sit together if you're in that sort of bubble or extended bubble. So what we are doing, because it is so vitally important that we're able to maximise the number of seats we sell, is we are going through the PNR lists every day, identifying who is travelling together and ensuring that we can, sell as many seats as possible, because as I said before, it really limits the fare availability, for the range of prices that you can sell for people to travel, and of course the revenue that you can gain from those flights. So it's really important, and I think there will be a lot more noise, I'm sure, in the coming days from some of the other airlines that we work alongside, because of course they're feeling the same thing. Absolutely.
From what you're saying, it seems like couples are welcome then.
Yeah, absolutely. Get the family on board. You can all sit together, but it's just the strangers we've got to separate, unfortunately.
Indeed. Now, this whole social distancing thing, it's really interesting, because I was reading a study about, and I don't know whether this applies to your aircraft or not, but it seems like that the air supply in an aircraft changes quite a lot. It seems that you get a complete refresh every 3 minutes or so. Is this correct?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's all part of how the aircraft pressurised. So you've got air coming in and leaving the aircraft all the time to help with that pressurisation cycle. Plus, it is going through filtration systems and recirculation fans, so it does get moved around quite a lot. And depending on the aircraft, in terms of the different types of filtration systems that are used. So yeah, it's been identified across the industry that it is a very low risk of transmission through airborne contaminants.
So while it's a confined space and we are flying in a metal tube after all, it's a well-ventilated metal tube, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's where the importance is actually around the deep cleans that are being conducted frequently and making sure that that's happening and happening to a high standard, and the people involved are taking their time and doing it properly. So that's really where we're focusing, alongside the other mitigations like compulsory mask wearing.
Yes, I saw the statement you put out about the social distancing requirement, and I saw some of the statements from the other operators. How long do you think the aviation industry can cope with social distancing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, all airlines are losing money at the moment. It's one of those unfortunate things where you're putting airplanes in the air and you know that the result at the end of the week isn't going to be great. Air New Zealand's certainly in that position as well. I mean, they've got their regional turboprops, which they're selling at 50%, and they've got their Airbus A320s, which they're selling at 2/3. So it's always that last little bit that actually returns a margin to you, and if you can't sell it, you're never going to get it. So that's the challenge, and that's the case that's been put to government, and unfortunately it's just not really having an effect at the moment.
Wow. Interesting times. Duane, it's been great to talk. I imagine next week we might talk about the airport, if you don't mind.
Always open to have a chat about the airport, John.
Indeed, because I believe there's a meeting on the following Saturday. So, look, it's great to catch up with you. I do hope the improvement continues, and I do hope that we get out of the current kerfuddle, because obviously it's causing enormous problems for your industry. Thank you for keeping going, and thank you for servicing so well the Kapiti Coast. Duane Emeny, thank you so much for your company this evening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
106.3 Beach FM.